Good afternoon everybody and welcome to sunny Lithgow, and funny enough it is today. Anyway, that's enough of that. I just was changing the oil on Marianne my Citroën Diane. I thought I would just give you a bit of a look at the engine and the engine compartment. So the oil's changed, I've just got to check it and top it back up. Also change the fuel filter and the oil filter, which should be a nice little cartridge, which you can't see, but it's hidden right down there. Anyway, so this car, being a 79, is a 602cc engine. Earlier ones had various engines. There was 425, 435 cc's, but all the later ones had 602s. But there is a difference between the Diane 602 and the standard 2CV 602. And that's one of the obvious ones. The spare tyre is under the bonnet. In the 2CV, it's in the boot. So we've actually got a separate underfloor storage area in the boot of the Diane because there's no spare wheel. So we'll take that out, see if we can do this one-handed. They're not that big, obviously. We dump him over here. That was a bit flicky around, sorry about that people. And now you can see the lot. So we've got an all aluminium, twin cylinder, horizontally opposed 602cc. So you've got one cylinder down there, the other one obviously enough on the other side over there, horizontally opposed. They're set slightly off centre, and we have lots of ducting. Because these are air cooled, we've got ducting all over it. These are the heat exchangers, which I'll talk about in a second. Then we go back, we've got alternator being a later one. Earlier ones had the dynamo built into the back of the fan. Starter motor, nice and accessible up the top. Onto a 4-speed gearbox, and here's our funny little push-pull change. It's extremely good actually. It really is. People carry on about it, but it's as easy as pie to use. It's delightful. And jack. So what have we got that's different? Okay. Well, on these later ones, we've got a twin choke Solex and air cleaner. But if you track the front of the air cleaner around, you'll find it actually goes into the air trunking here. We've got a fan. It's going to be a bit tricky to see, but there's a fan in there, driven off the front of the engine, and so that's pushing air across and giving a slight forced induction into the carburetor of the 602s of the Diane. The 2CVs, this just had a straight out pipe, so there was no forced induction. Don't get too carried away about the forced induction. It does make a minor difference, but not a great deal. We have a single coil with two sides on it, one for each spark plug because they actually fire at the same time. And normally hidden behind that fan would be a set of points, but in my case I've got electronic ignition. So I've actually just upgraded this coil to one made by Burton's in the Netherlands specifically for the electronic ignition. And I got to admit, although I haven't had it hot starting yet, hot start's always an issue with these. So far it certainly starts a lot better. And there's Pebbles the Wonder Dog just come in to see. I got my other companion Edsel lying down there on the floor. He's always in the garage with me, but Peb's my oldest girl. She's not very well, a bit of a heart problem, but anyway. She very rarely comes in, but she likes to have a look. Anyway, let's get back to this. So, what else do we have to talk about with the engine? Not a great deal, other than I've stuffed up one side of it, so I got a bit of an oil leak, but until I have to pull this side head off again, I'm not going to fix it. I just put up with it. Anyway, so we got heat exchangers. So you got the exhaust. Oh, I don't know if you can see the manifold there. You've got the intake side of the manifold, and that's the exhaust side of the manifold. Obviously, this engine is cold. And then that's the exhaust pipe coming through, going through, comes out through the back into a cross box at the back of the engine. So each side feeds into it, and then that on these cars goes down to another little silencer and then exits just, I don't know if you can see him there, just there he is, there's the exhaust pipe just in front of the back wheel. So Anyway, back to these heat exchangers. So these are these one on each side are the heat exchangers to get hot air into the car. Now, I know that Oliver from the Oliver Pickard, he's got a 63, which has the much earlier, smaller engine. He's got brilliant heat transfers because it actually comes off the engine. These just wrap around the exhaust pipe. So you've got this cable-driven system here with a flap. See if we can get the flap in there, a little flap controller there. So at the moment, the flap is closed going through the ducting into the car, and it then allows it to exit through here into the wheel arches, so it just gets expelled out the side. When you pull it over to hot, it flicks the flap across. The hot air now goes through this ducting into this central piece and either into the floor, down onto the floor, or up onto the windscreen. No fan forcing. Burton's, I know, do make a fan. You actually cut this ducting and install a little 12-volt fan inside the ducting just to force it through. To be honest, I've had this going full belt, and let me just say, wear plenty of clothes. It's not the warmest. The other thing you need to do, because this is air-cooled, I haven't got it down with me at the moment, sitting up in storage, a muff goes across the front here with just a couple of smaller holes. And they go on below 10, once it hits 10 degrees or below Celsius, and once it goes to 15 or above, you take it back off. So essentially in Lithgow here, once we get to winter, the muff goes on and she stays on. It just stays on the whole time. So I'm trying to think, what else have we got of interest? Okay, being a later one, hard to see, I think. Oh yes, you might be able to just pick it up down in there. Yes, you can just see the disc. So these are front disc brakes, inboard of course, nothing on the behind the wheel itself, and they're fed by a dual brake master cylinder, which funnily enough uses LHM fluid, the same green hydraulic fluid as the high pressure system on your DS's and all the other ones. These aren't pressurised at all. You have no booster to your brakes at all, but you know, it only weighs 600 kilos, so with front disc brakes, believe me, it can stop quite quickly. Getting back to that, so as I said, there are no brakes sitting behind the wheels, but there's a little interesting fact with these wheels. That's, I had to remind I've just had, these are new tyres. The tyres I had on it, whilst they had plenty of tread, were old and cracked. So I've got brand new Michelins on it now that I got out from England. And anyway, so when I had them fitted, I had to tell the tyre guys not to balance these wheels because they're actually self-balancing. They have 3 studs that sit. You'd see if I took the cap off, it would be handy, wouldn't it? There are 3 studs with elongated washers that sit within a ridge. And whilst you can tighten them up, they never get 100% tight. So they just allow that tiniest little bit of movement in the wheels to keep them balanced. So there you go. There's a little bit of trivia for you. Now there's another little bit of trivia on my car. This car was actually yellow. When it came out from England, it was yellow. And in fact, I've just found a spot. There's the yellow still on their side of the bonnet. There's not much. Whoever did it did a damn good job, but there are a couple of little spots of yellow. Anyway, and it is now a colour called Vert Jade, which is a very pale green. I actually like it. The yellow ones, and I'm sorry, I'm trying not to offend all the other 2CV lovers and Diane lovers, but the yellows are fairly common, so this isn't. But one of the things that all my European friends will tell me is that my blinkers are upside down. Whoever put this together didn't know which side the blinkers went on, so they put them on backwards. Now, that would be fine. They're held on by a large U section at the back that just clamps against the body with a central bolt. It's missing on what side? I think the driver's side. Don't forget, this is a right-hand drive car for you people in America that think that's all wrong. This is a right-hand drive car. So I'm pretty sure it's that one, is actually been bogged in. And I have got brand new blinkers to go in, but the wires on those new blinkers are a bit short. So I'm going to have to splice pieces in, clean it all up and fit them properly. But look, they work. Yes, they're upside down. People will keep telling me they're upside down. But anyway, I know they are upside down. The other thing I should say that they also tell me about is the wheels are the same colour as the body. They shouldn't be. All of them came with a very pale grey wheel, and I apologise to my French friends, but I've totally forgotten what the colour's called, and I'm not going to try and pronounce it anyway. So there. We have very advanced. We have window washers. In an earlier video I did, you'll see that there's a foot plunger for that. So just pump your foot on it and pumps it up. What else? The other thing with the 2CV and different to the Diane, or in my case the Diane different to the 2CV. The 2CV's front guards come off very, very easily. They've got a bolt back here, and you can just, and a couple of, two, I've never taken one off and I've never had a 2CV, so I can't tell you exactly how many bolts, but it's very easy. Unfortunately, the Diane isn't. I took that guard off over there when I had a spark plug blow out of this head. In fact, what do you mean a spark plug blow out of this head? This head has only got one spark plug. The spark plug blew out of the head. The other side over there has already got a helicoil insert in the aluminium head. This one on this side didn't. This had a... I don't know what they're called. I don't know their actual name, but it's a round insert that then has little pins around the outside. I'll try and find... I do have photos of it. I'll see if I can learn how to impose photos whilst I'm talking about it. What happened, I was driving along one day and all of a sudden there was this bang, and it was very, very noisy. I thought, oh, I've blown the exhaust. Anyway, hadn't blown the exhaust, got it back into the garage, went all around it, and what we found is that a tiny little piece, the size of, it'd be half a centimetre piece of that insert had just blown out. Spark plug, fortunately, was still firmly attached and firing, but of course, I'd lost compression on that one cylinder. So it limped home actually quite well, just very noisy. So anyway, I took the head off, which necessitated taking this guard off, so now I know how difficult they are. And of course, all this front section had to come off as well. Took the head off. At the time, my Model T, I'll just refresh you on that one, there's my Model T. The Model T's engine was down at a friend in Goulburn being rebuilt with all brand new parts in it. He saw on Facebook that I'd had this issue anyway, and the next day, funnily enough, I was taking some new parts for the Model T engine down to him. So he said, bring it down and we'll see what we can do. So took the head, they're not big, and took it down to him. He said, yeah, I'll fix that. It'll take me a couple of days. I'll give you a ring when it's done. I said, yeah, that's fine. I'll drive back down. It's a couple of 2.5 hours drive down to Goulburn, but through bush, all through bush, not through any cities, and it's absolutely lovely drive. So the friends that had come with me, we left it there with him. We got probably 20, 30 kilometres up the road. Phone rang and he said, I fixed it for you, where are you? And I said, we're just at the next little town. He said, well, it's all ready. So we did a U-turn, went back down, and what he'd done on the Model T, the spark plugs are a large pipe thread. Pipe thread means it's very lightly tapered. So as you turn it in, it tightens, but much larger than the usual 14mm spark plug that we now use. But they make 14mm spark plug adapters for the Model T. I don't run them. I run the correct Champion big pipe thread ones. They work better. Anyway, what he'd done is he'd drilled out the insert, tapped the hole, and screwed in a 14mm brass Model T spark plug adapter. So I've got a piece of Model T in this engine. The only weird thing it now means is that when I go and buy the whole 2 spark plugs, as I just did recently, to give it a bit of a service, I have to buy a 6 BP-ES, BP6ES, I think it is that side, and BP6HS for this side. One short reach and long reach. It confuses the hell out of Super Cheap, believe me. But anyway, we get there. You know, they want to look that up. Oh, so what car it is? Where is it from? Oh, well, it's from a 1979 Citroën Diane. Funny enough, they do list it. But it still throws them because it's not the plugs I want. Anyway, so I think that's about all we can really talk about here. That disc is a bit easier to see down there. Hang on, we're just having the door blow shut. A bit windy up here at the moment and cold actually. I don't know if you can see that threaded portion on the top. That's actually the park brake. So that very front little piece, tiny little pads, are the park brake. And then the main ones are just a bit further down. So, yeah. So that's it. Anything else of interest in there? No, forced induction. Oh, yes, very powerful. Okay, look, I think before I just ramble on and on, I think we'll just leave it there. Anyway, thanks for that. See ya.